Yes.
Anna is running a few moments late, so she said to go ahead and she will be here when she can.
Okay. All right, then I will call this workshop meeting to order, February 23rd, 2022. And I see that Joe is all prepared with his flag. Let us pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
under
one
God,
nation,
indivisible,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Here we go. I'm trying to get rid of the meeting is being live streamed. I just want to say, got it, I guess. There, that's how I usually bounce myself out of here. So hopefully you all have our 2022-23 proposed #2 budget. And I will say that I think we did a really great job last time. And I think we could conclude very quickly this evening. If you turn to page 2, you can see that previously what was appropriating cash using surplus under the general fund on the proposed budget #1 of $1,620,153, we have dropped that to $744,601. So we cut or added revenues. We cut appropriations or added revenues that totaled $875,552. So we did very well. So now we're at about 744. The surplus calculations are included in your packet. And I think we could feel very comfortable with about a 600,000 use of surplus. So this is not that much to fine tune here. And I will certainly.
Where's the surplus?
Excuse me?
We're on page 2?
Yes, we were looking at page 2. So under general fund.
I see the current year surplus, it says 0. Am I missing something here?
Go to above that, Richard, and you're seeing the appropriated cash use surplus of $744,601. So that figure, we would like to, chop by like 150,000. I think it's very doable. I sort of had some, and to begin under revenues, if you turn to page 4, about halfway down the page, fines and forfeitures, A2610. It was proposed at 50,000. You can see that as of 2/1, we were already almost at 58,000, so we'd exceeded that. We also didn't have quite a full year last year, if you recall, because we had no system in place in June, the first month of our fiscal year. And really, it was about July 5th or 6th that we got operational. So there's a bit of extrapolation, but since we don't have a complete year to gauge it on with our passport ticketing system, but I sort of crunched the numbers, and I think we could be comfortably about $90,000. So that is a $40,000 increase in revenue. Does anyone have anything other than that they want to mention, or no?
In view of that, maybe we're not there in terms of revenue, but how does that relate to the parking income, the paid parking, not penalty not tickets and so forth? Is your analysis, does it suggest that we could increase anticipated parking revenues, or do you think
Cindy did that last time, and I think we were all pretty comfortable with that's on page 3. Parking lots and garage fees, 425,000. So I do think they're really separate and distinct.
I understand that they're separate, but one relates, the amount of tickets is related to the total volume of people who show up, right? So I'm fine with, I'm not asking to change the number. I'm just asking if it's worth revisiting because we're making such a big change in what we anticipate parking tickets will yield. Does that, the underlying parking ticket, paid parking volume bear any relationship to that?
I think to a degree we did. We increased by 75,000, not quite 70,000, the parking revenue from our first budget, from our paid parking.
Right.
We went from 355 to 425. At our first go around with proposed budget number 1.
Yep, I'm looking at it. If we can, I just wanted to flag it. I'm not advocating anything, just wanted to see if it warrants reconsideration.
I don't mean to say nay, but I think I don't think I'd necessarily want to go much above 425 for our, no, Cindy, others.
Okay,
No,
thanks.
no, okay, all right. So, well, we just did 40,000. Moving on. My next one was page 9, and now we're under appropriations. So it's the very first line on page 9, police personal services special events.
I'm sorry. Can I revisit something on page 4?
Sure, sure. I'm sorry.
With this woolly adelgid issue, I know we talked about it, but I didn't know that we concluded on it. I see for sale of forest products, we are zeroing out anything there, but if we remove a lot of trees, the conclusion is none of them is merchantable timber?
No, and we have now been told that probably the best thing would be either to chip or drop and leave in place, not to transport. So there would be no sale, no, they're infected.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to page 9. The first line, it was my note on proposed budget number 1 that we were essentially using our existing overtime for that special event. So I had that we had eliminated. Hi, Hannah, welcome.
Hi, sorry for my tardiness.
No, not at all. We just began. You missed a quick recap, which was we did an excellent job the first time. We think we can be really concise and quick this evening. We've already added 40,000 to revenues in the fines and forfeitures, which is basically parking tickets or revenue. So now we are looking at appropriations. We're on page 9, the very first line. My note was we had eliminated that 5,000 and said, let's use, it was covered under police overtime. Correct? Is that everyone? Okay. So that's the 5,000 to the good. So now we are standing at use of surplus at 699,601. We only want to get it to about 600. And I jump to page 17 where
Can we go back to page 8 for a minute?
8, yes. I bet you scared me. Okay, go ahead.
Under building repairs, we need to add that boiler change control,
Oh, thank you very much, Mitch. How much was that?
4,500.
So we're adding it in 1624.80,
Yes.
and you said 1,600 even.
No,
4,500.
4,500.
4,500 even. 4,500. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, then we were.
Actually, I was looking at something on page 12.
Sure. Yep.
On snow removal, 5142, 410. We have 82,200. That's almost, well, not quite double, but close to double of anything we've used in the past several years.
I'll let Mitch.
Did the price go way, way, way up, or?
The salt or what?
It's for the salt, the 1,200 tons of road salt.
I think
It's
the,
at it's at $66 a ton right now, but everything's going up. And
So
I'm
you
trying
think
to
it
get
might
it.
be double what we've been doing.
Well, no,
No, that's correct. You know, you're right. The price is way up, Gene.
So we should leave it.
Well, do we have, since we are where we are in the winter, do we have any estimate of what we consumed of our supply that we purchased last year?
we do, but I don't have it with me.
Would that bear on Gene's inquiry if we're kind of ahead of the game?
Well, I'm trying to be about zero, because if we build this salt shed, I want to start off, with our own salt, not have to take it back from where we have it stored at the county.
No,
right, so
I'm-
right now, we, it's a kind of a guesstimate of, to a degree, it always has been, because it's all commingled at the county storage building.
Sure. All I'm saying is that we have some credit amount there now, I'm assuming, and if would the anticipated use or leftover credit be something that would be used to calculate maybe needing less?
No, because my goal is to go into next year with no credit. So we're starting off fresh
Use
with
it
our
up.
own. Yes.
We're not buying salt now with the intention of using all of our reserve salt.
Okay. Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why this year's cost, as of 2/1 is so low compared to what we budgeted.
Okay.
Okay, are we good on that one?
So we want to leave it at 82,000.
I think it's the recommendation of our
Yeah.
streets and DPW superintendent.
Yep.
And understandable.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, I did have a question on page 11. I don't know if Deb was filling up the beam here. But Mitch, you could probably answer it for me. It's on page 11, street maintenance. The second line, 5110-200 street maintenance equipment. And I know we played with this quite a bit. So when it says roller, 1,600, 5,000 from
16,000.
reserve. Excuse me?
16,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, 16,000. With 5,000 from reserves, is that at a $21,000 piece of equipment?
No, that's 16,000.
Then I think that's added wrong. Because, well, shouldn't we be taking that 5,000 out? So then it's 11,000, correct? Would really be coming from it?
Yes,
In
and
which-
11,000 and 5,000 would be coming from reserves.
Correct. So
But you
the
can-
amounts we're adding for that line are, because it didn't jive with my notes, were
You
the,
cannot- Ellen, you cannot take reserves amounts from the appropriated expenditures. It has to be the full amount that you're expending for the expenditure, no matter where the money comes from.
So do we have that 5,000 showing up in revenue, Deb?
Yes,
oh, it is
that's on your
there.
summary page 2.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deb. That was my question. I just wanted to make sure it was there on both lines, and I didn't see it. So,
That's the appropriated reserve, right, Deb?
So just delete that
That
in
is correct.
parentheses, the 5,000, delete it.
well, it helps us remember that we are using reserves. So under appropriated reserve, it's 113,000, and 5 of that is for the roller, correct?
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
correct.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had a question on that one. So the other area was page 17, unless somebody had something earlier with a question. Page 17, under interfund transfers, the last column, black bracket, transfers to general fund. That, if you look, we've actually are allocating $401,500 to streets this year, to street repair and surfacing. That 120 represents 10,000 to buildings reserve, which is, fine, and 110 to street. And I feel between the 400,000 that were already committed in this budget to street repair, that perhaps that 100,000 does not need to be going to reserves. Cindy, I'm sorry, you're muted.
I apologize. My question for Deb is if that 110 is double counted, because, and I haven't checked it with my calculator yet, but it's listed on page 12. And then it's also listed on page 17.
Where are we looking, Cindy, on 12?
The very top of the page where it's saying Main Street paving, Railroad to Grove, Salt Shed, Chestnuts paving, and then it says reserves 110.
We could argue about whether it should be included, and we can certainly do that, but I'm wondering if it's actually counted twice.
Mitch is transferring 110 to the reserves, not spending it on that line for 9901. He's putting money to the reserves.
Exactly, that's what I understood. And if you
Right.
go to, what is it, Schedule 3, you see it there. But my question is, with the amount of money that we are spending, almost, with everything we kind of do for the streets, it's quite a bit of street repair this year. And we acknowledge we didn't do it recently, but that's fine. But on top of that, we need to put 100,000 in reserves on there. Cindy, I'm sorry. Leave it on. We don't care if the dog barks.
We had sort of, prior to the pandemic, developed a policy of actually trying to put 200 from paid parking into streets reserves. And the reason for that was that if we're ever going to undertake any of these larger projects that we know need to be done, we have to start, well, we have to either do one of two things. We have to make a commitment that in the future we will bond for them, or we have to start saving up for them. And so that 110 was sort of a compromise, not the full 200 clearly, but, to start thinking about the fact that we need to return to the south end. We need to do something about the Beaver Chestnut corner. We need to do, we need to think about Esley. There are all these projects that have sort of been put on hold for the past 2 years now with the pandemic that, eventually are going to come back and bite us.
I agree. And traditionally we were super good about it. I mean, we basically had a $1.2 million Pioneer Street project from Lake to Church, totally village funded, that we had just kept putting the money aside. But the only thing I would submit is we have a very important project right now that last year we didn't put any money in the budget to handle other than a band payment, and that is Doubleday. And I just think that, in this budget, we are actually finally putting something toward Doubleday. And I think that this might have to just take the back seat for another year. Right now, we haven't even done the engineering, and we've discussed, the whole West Beaver Chestnut thing. and I hate to utter these words because I know it's still painful for all of us having experienced it, but in some ways it is prime material for a TEP project.
Right. Can we check the math though on the line? Because I do think that 110 is counted twice, unless I'm misunderstanding the way the budget is put together. Because line on page 11, line 5112-440, that's the last line on page 11, I believe includes 110,000 going into reserves.
Well, I see what you're saying.
And then if we go to 17, we have we have shown that 110 going into reserves, but it seems to me that we're counting it in the budget twice. Because I get without it, that last line on page 11 would be like 291. But someone should definitely check my math.
Yeah.
So Cindy, you're just saying this kind of identifies what was happening on page 11. It's the 110 is the result of an interfund transfer.
I'm saying that I believe the 110 should show up as an interfund transfer and not on page 11.
Not included in that total. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm confused too why it's there.
I think there are two different issues going on here, that we're putting money into the reserves and we're taking money out to apply to these projects. And it just happens to be the same amount.
I don't think we're taking any money out of the reserves.
Why do you say that, Cindy?
We're taking 113,000 out of reserves.
It's listed as reserves 110,000 on the top of page 12.
If you look on your summary sheet of page 2, we are taking 113,000 appropriated reserve.
And Deb, do you know what accounts that's coming from? Because that's where my confusion is.
If you look on page 31 of the budget schedule 4, there's 90,000 coming from the village equipment reserve that we have appropriated and 23,000 from Doubleday reserve. Then 110 is putting into the street improvement reserve and the 10,000 for the building reserve. So it's kind of a combination of two things, appropriated and transfers into the reserves. And it just happens to be very close to the same figures. And I think that's where the confusion lies.
What is the 90,000 in village equipment reserve? Do you know what that's for? I see the roller. That's 5,000.
That's the figures that Mitch is using for the purchase of the sweeper lease. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch.
Yeah, it's the sweeper lease, the roller, a vent tractor for Doubleday, and a loader for the sewer plant.
All right, so that makes sense. So that I'm still confused as to why 110 is listed on the top of page 12, because that doesn't have to do with any of those things.
Yeah, and then that 110 is definitely added in the $401,500.
Right.
Can I ask a question? Mitch, you mentioned a pump for the treatment plant. Why wouldn't that come out of those accounts?
Don't forget, that's sewer. We're in general fund.
Right, but I thought he said it was for something for the sewer. Which plant, Mitch?
It's a
Oh.
loader for the sewer plant.
Right, so if it's a motor for the sewer plant, why are we spending it out of sewer?
They should be coming out of sewer.
Okay, so when this line item on page 31 that says village equipment reserve, does that relate to sewer, or is that a catch-all line there that would capture any account we have? I don't understand it.
Well, if you look down further, if you're looking at page 31, don't look at village equipment reserve. That is village equipment. If this is a piece of equipment for the sewer plant, it should come from sewer plant equipment reserve.
Right, but Mitch was just saying that the $90,000 on the village equipment reserve line, we're spending money for that pump out of it.
I just
Is it-
made a whole list together. It should have come out of the sewer equipment reserve.
Okay, so, all right, so in this $90,000 item under village equipment reserve, again, I'm confused. We've put everything, whether irrespective of what account it comes from, we're now lumping it here.
The reserve money for the loader should come out of the sewer equipment reserve, and everything else should be village equipment reserve.
So then, to get back to the first reference to this $90,000, is that too high? Should that number be shown coming out of sewer? Should it be reduced by the amount that would come out of sewer?
I would think so, yes, and that,
Yes.
which is about 79,000, so that should go back into the sewer part.
So,
That leaves 11,000 then from village equipment reserve, correct?
I think so.
and
And-
so just to help me understand this, does that mean we have 79,000 out of the general fund that we found that reduces our appropriation need?
Yes, plus
I
I
said
think
yes.
that 110 is still counted twice, I think.
It sure looks like it's listed twice.
So I think between the two, we just found $200,000.
Well, I confess to still being puzzled about the double counting, but I just wanted to, and we can sort that out, but I still want to be clear on the reduction of this $90,000 number to help us get to the number Ellen's
Mhm.
looking for. Am I tracking? I just want to know if I'm tracking this correctly.
So that 11,000, let's just make sure, it's the village equipment reserve. We now think it's 11, and 5 of that is the roller, right? Correct?
Yep, 5 of it is the roller.
And the balance of 6,000 is,
Mitch, what I don't remember is what we decided about the sweeper. Because the sweeper is showing up now as a lease, so that's at the end of the general budget.
Mhm.
And I remember a discussion about whether some of that was coming out of village equipment reserve. But I don't seem to have written down a number to go with that.
If we take, for what should be coming out of reserves for equipment, if you get rid of the loader, should be a roller for, would be 5,000 coming out, correct?
correct?
Yes,
And then under Doubleday, there's money coming for their vent track out of reserves.
Okay,
And then that should be it. I don't know where, I think the lease comes in somewhere else in this. Right, Deb?
Yeah,
Yes.
the police are paying for theirs on a different line.
and so it was on here, that's on page. All right, where is that? This is confusing. I don't know if we've clarified it or confused it then, because if you go to page 14, near the bottom, Doubleday Field, the second category, 7140-200, Doubleday Field equipment. Ventrec, 1/3 streets, 2/3 Doubleday, 28,124.80, 23,000 from reserves.
So that shows in the reserve schedule.
That's one of the 113.
No, that's the 23 that's above.
Okay, so that's the 23.
Yep.
So I thought there was some Doubleday Ventric that was in the 11,000 village equipment.
No, the streets portion was just a regular budgeted item. It hadn't been designated as a reserve.
Okay, so then we're still back. I'm sorry. If someone's getting this faster than I, please jump in. So we were at 90. We recognized that really it shouldn't be 90. 79 of that should be coming from sewer plant equipment reserve, correct? So I've made a note, 79,000 there. So that leaves.
Why is that from the 79? Isn't that 80 some thousand for the sweeper from the reserves?
See, that's what I don't know. I don't know that if we decided to put this, to take the first payment for the sweeper out of the reserves.
That was my understanding, but correct me if I'm wrong.
We definitely discussed it, Deb. I remember that as well. I don't remember the dollar figure that we came up with.
Well, utilizing the schedule I got from the company that Mitch was working with there, that's where the figures came from for those 73,843 and the 10,469 on page 17.
Well, for what it's worth, looking under the sewer fund, I don't see that $79,000 item. If we think it's already accounted for elsewhere. Unless I'm missing it.
So Ellen, that 90 is accounted for this way.
Okay.
85 of it, actually 84,317 is the sweeper. It's the first year of the sweeper payments. And then 5,000 is the roller.
Okay, so that's 89,317 and we're taking 90.
Yeah, I mean, we could say 89,317 because that's what it comes to in the budget on the other side, but but those are the two items. That's how that 90 figure was developed. It's the roller and the first year of the sweeper.
Okay, well then in that case, we're right back to not finding money.
Right.
Except that 110 is still double counted. It is counted on page 1112 and it is counted on page 17.
Yeah, and that I can't understand. So is there a reason, Deb, that is included in that 401 $500 figure instead of that line being 291,500.
I'll have to check into it. I don't have all the paperwork here at home with me today.
Totally understandable, and we really appreciate your chiming in, Deb. Yeah, let's kind of look kind of closely at that one. My goal was to sort of potentially wrap this up tonight and maybe even cancel our next two budget meetings. We could just sort of get some answers to these questions by Monday night's board meeting and hopefully clarify some of this. So, you know, at this point, we have, as I say, we're about 100,000 from where we want to be. So how we get there, and it could be as simple as something was double counted. We need to figure that out, and we'll have an answer and can sort of finalize it on Monday. And hopefully, if everyone's comfortable with that, with the review of the budget, then we could be done almost a month in advance. Our tentative isn't due till March 20th, but we have really put our noses to the grindstone and done a great job on this. So I really do think we could.
Great.
All right. If there's nothing else, we will plan to, you know, get answers, touch base on this in our Monday night meeting, and I think we're all set. All right.
Great.
Thank you so very much. Have a nice evening. Have a
Thanks,
nice evening.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.